Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Women's Winter Series for the Jewish Federation in the heart of New Jersey. I'm Bonnie Leff, the Engagement Advisor to the Women's Philanthropy Group. Tonight, our guest speaker is our very own Jan Grayzel. This is the fourth in the series of programs developed for the women of Monmouth and Middlesex counties. There are two more events left before we take a break for Passover, so please be sure to check your calendar and join us for those events. Tonight, we'd like to thank each of our volunteers, those who have been working in the background all fall, helping me and others on the staff get these programs off the ground. Their special creativity and brainstorming has made all the difference. They've brought this reality to life. There's so much time that our committee members have put into this, and if you'd like to join one of our committees, please let me know by reaching out to me at Jewish Federation. Special thanks tonight to our chairwomen, Cheryl Grutman and Brenda Tansman, for their continued support of this special initiative. Your partnership, especially during this last year, has been very meaningful and appreciated. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Beth Krinsky, a leader in our community and a close friend. As many of you know, Beth has been affiliated with Jewish Federation for 50 years. It's actually through Federation that Beth met her husband, Joel. Beth has been a past president of the Women's Division in Monmouth County. She's served on the board of the Federation in the heart of New Jersey since its inception. In addition to her devotion to this organization, Beth has been a leader in her local community, sitting on the board of directors and on the board of the sisterhood at Congregation Sons of Israel in Manalapan, New Jersey. She has also held seats on the board at Jewish Families and Children's Services and currently sits on the board at the Hebrew Free Loan Society of New Jersey. Beth is at her very heart a teacher, and part of being a teacher is to listen and impart a lesson. She is there to listen to your issues and then to offer advice. She attends carefully to friends, the community, and family. Federation is very lucky to have her in our corner. Beth?
Thank you, Bonnie. That was very sweet. And I'm glad to be your friend. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because so many of you are, as I am, active for so many, many years. But Lisa did work with me on a little bit of an intro to Federation so that anyone who doesn't know about us can join us and work with us. We are excited to have Jan with us tonight, who will share her wealth of experience in caring for yourself and your family. Feeding ourselves and the ones we care about is the most fundamental ways of expressing love and concern, especially during the last year. The concept of caring for our own is so central to Federation's mission. Did you know that we have helped support more than 70,000 kosher meals for people who would otherwise go hungry in the last 12 months? Think about that. You might be surprised that there are people right here in your own backyard who are in need. Keep your eyes and ears open, and many of them for the first time, so they won't ask for help as a result of the pandemic. There are hundreds of elderly Holocaust survivors who need more and more help each passing day. Because of the Federation and supporters like all of us here, these survivors can age with dignity and safety in their own homes, in their own communities. Another Federation partner that we support, which is extremely dear to my heart, is the Hebrew Free Loan of New Jersey. We literally lend interest-free money for almost anyone in need. We have a new business program now where we will loan up to $50,000. We have had 3 of them so far, and we just started the program. We also have a program called Building Jewish Families, which is to help defray the cost of fertility, adoption, and surrogacy. But sometimes it is just to lend a hand, like the woman who needed $1,000 because she had to have dental work and could not afford it, and we were able to help her. This is so very, very important. One of the things or recent stories, which you will appreciate as women, is we got a call from a woman who fled with her children for domestic violence, from domestic violence. The shelters helped her to get to safety, but she needed a lawyer to help unfreeze joint assets she had earned. But she couldn't afford a lawyer. Hebrew Free Loan helped Julie access the money she had earned and put into those joint accounts, and she and her children went on to build a new life in safety. Caring for our own is so important. You know, this would not be a night of Hebrew Free of the Heart of New Jersey Federation if we did not think about how we might help. So as part of the Federation, we would like you all to think about a commitment, a financial commitment to our Federation. This will help us continue the programs and help the people that we need to help in our own community and the agencies which so badly need us. Raising funds is now down due to the pandemic. We all need to group together. It takes a village, and that's what we are, a village, to help each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth, very much. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Jan Grayzel. Jan has been in the health and wellness field for 15 years. Her business, Custom Wellness by Jan, focuses on both personal training and health coaching. She works with clients in the area of strength training, balance, stretching, flexibility, endurance, and nutrition. Jan's website is customwellnessbyjan.com. She has resided in Metuchen for over 35 years and is married to retired attorney Ron. Her daughter Rebecca recently received her doctorate in psychology and is a practicing therapist in California. Her son Daniel is the director of strategy at a global consulting firm and resides in Brooklyn with his wife Alex. Jan was part of our committee that developed our winter series, and tonight's program is her own creation. We want to thank Jan for offering her time and her creativity to our series. Thank you, Jan. Take it away.
Thanks, Bonnie. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pantry Rehab 2021. So we have all been home for the last year, and we've been doing a lot of cooking. I know I have, and a lot of shopping in the beginning, a lot of delivery. And I know when the pandemic started about a year ago, a lot of foods were flying off the shelves and never to be seen again. So what did we do? Myself included, we started to overbuy and overstock. And whether it was paper goods or baking goods, whatever we could find, we would buy, whether we needed it or not. And I'm just as guilty as the next person. I did that. And I have a pantry downstairs. It has about 6 or 7 very big shelves. And at some point it was organized, but by the time 6 months went by in the pandemic, I couldn't find anything. And, you know, as I said, we all cooked a lot, occasionally did some takeout, but cooking is obviously a lot healthier for you. And it wasn't just 1 meal a day, it was 3 meals a day because we were not going out. So every time I went downstairs to my pantry to try to pull out an ingredient for something I was making, I couldn't find it. I knew it was there, could not find it. And this went on for quite a few months. So finally, I guess it was in late November, December, I had had enough and it was time to make over my pantry. So how do we go about making over our pantry? Well, it can be overwhelming. So tonight I'm here to just offer you some pointers and try to simplify it and just go through the process basically the way I did it. The first thing I did, and you know, I kind of compared it to cleaning out. Some of us were talking before the evening began, tackling a closet. You know, you need to clean out that closet, and you avoid it and you avoid it and you avoid it. But once you go into that closet and start pulling everything out, you kind of start getting into it and you want to just finish the process. So that's basically what I did with the pantry. What I started doing, I went shelf by shelf. I pulled everything out, and I mean everything. And I knew there were foods back there that I probably hadn't seen in years. So I know it's tedious, but the very first thing I did after I cleaned it off, after I pulled everything off, I wiped down the shelves, and my whole floor of my pantry was just strewn with, canned goods, cereal boxes, rices, pastas. I went through every item and checked the expiration date on every single item. Now that's tedious, I know that, but there's no point in putting everything back on the shelf if things are expired. So I did have a trash bag with me. I got rid of, unfortunately, I don't like to throw out food, but there were not a lot, but enough items to distress me about it, but I got rid of them. And when I put the things back on the shelves, the easiest way to do it, if you have multiple items of one, like I have a lot of cans of diced tomatoes or crushed tomatoes, cereal boxes, you know what the expiration dates are. So when you stack them back on your shelves, obviously put the most current expiration date in front of you, right in the front. And then the further dates that are a little further down the road, just put them behind. So now when I go downstairs and I need to get something, I don't have to say, oh, is the one behind it the one that I should take first? No, the one in the front is the one you take, and it's all organized in that respect. And as a quick aside, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but I'm just curious, you can raise your hand or just kind of think about it. How many of you regularly check the expiration dates in your spice cabinet? My spice cabinet is behind me, herbs and spices, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, cinnamon, what have you. They need to be checked. I didn't realize this till about 10 or 15 years ago. I was making something on the stove and I needed a lot of spices. I think it was a chili dish or some casserole. And I pulled out all the spices, and some of them were a little sticky and tacky. So I wet a paper towel and I started wiping them down, and I saw one of them was stamped with something. Like, what is that? It was a date, probably from about 5 to 10 years ago. So I said, oh, I didn't even know there were sell by expiration, use by dates on spices. So I pulled everything out, and just about every single item was expired. From garlic powder to cinnamon to cumin to coriander, cayenne pepper, every single spice was expired. Put them all on the counter, took out my grocery list, wrote them all down, and tossed every single one. And funny enough, when I was preparing for this presentation tonight, the other day I was making something on the stove, and I noticed that my chili powder and my cayenne pepper had both expired, and I didn't know it. One was from December and one was from January, so it really wasn't that bad. Using expired spices, I don't think will get you sick, but I don't really think it's going to flavor your dish either. So something to think about, something to check. Most likely there's got to be a few in there that if you haven't checked them, probably need to get a fresh one. And if these are spices you don't use that often, they make spices in different sizes. You see the tall ones, but then you see the little tiny round ones. And if you don't use certain ones as often as you use others, you can get the smaller ones, and that way they probably won't go bad as quickly. So that was just a quick aside. So, okay, so we've done the expiration dates. Now you're probably looking at some foods as I did, and it was kind of unsure, should I keep this item? Is it healthy enough? If you're not sure and you kind of look at the back and you start reading the ingredients and it reads either like a short novel or there are words on it that you cannot pronounce, I would probably toss it. Healthy, delicious foods really shouldn't have too many ingredients in them, at least words that you can't pronounce. So I would definitely check for that as well. Second or third item I would check off my list would be anything containing artificial sweeteners. There's a lot of research and enough studies done where, anything from aspartame to sucralose We have the Sweet and Lows, the NutraSweets, the Splendas. There's really enough research to question the safety of using them. Something like stevia, which comes from a plant and is not chemically engineered, I don't think is a bad thing. I don't know if I would use it constantly, but I don't think stevia is bad to use once in a while. And then in conjunction with that, any bags, boxes, canned goods, anything that have ingredients that say artificial flavors, you can also kind of put by the wayside, because that's probably not a good thing either. And included with that would be food dye. I'm sure you've seen items on ingredients that have, red dye number 40 or yellow dye number 5 or 6. Out. Now, I'm sure you might have foods in your pantry that either say low fat or fat free. I just want you to keep in mind when those products you have say low fat, fat free, reduced fat, very often that fat is replaced by sugar. I mean, think about it. If they're removing the fat, how's it going to taste? It's probably going to taste terrible. And what's going to make it taste good? Well, pumping it up with lots of sugar. So read the ingredients carefully. I'm a big ingredients reader, even in the supermarket. And if you check your pantry, it's really important to read what it says on the label. Many years ago, this was during, for those of you who remember, the fat-free, low-fat craze, where that was the healthy way to eat, and it was just the way to go, and we were eating pasta till it was coming out of our ears. One day I had a yen for some Carvel. And at that time, and maybe they still do, I don't know, I went into the local Carvel in Metuchen, and they have the soft serve machines. They have the chocolate and the vanilla, but then they had a separate soft serve that was the fat-free soft serve. So I'm going to get that one. So the owner happened to be working there at the time. And I said, I'm just curious, do you have a nutrition fact sheet that would tell what the ingredients are and how much fat and what have you and whatever else is listed under the ingredients for the fat-free soft serve ice cream? And he just kind of like stood there and looked at me. I'm like, what's wrong with that question? He says, nothing. He says, but I don't think you'd want to see it because it is so loaded with sugar. He says, how else are we going to make it taste good? We've taken all the fat out. There's no flavor left. He says, my advice to you would be get the kitty size or just get a small of the regular and be done with it, and you'll be fine. So that's what I did, and that's what I still do. So keep the low fat, fat free items in mind. Even things like peanut butter. For so many years, I bought the reduced fat peanut butter. And if you hold the reduced fat peanut butter up and just the regular peanut butter, and you look at the labels in the back, there's more sugar in the reduced fat than in the regular peanut butter. And if you follow a good serving size, which is usually 2 tablespoons and of the regular peanut butter, you'll be fine. Sugar really is the enemy. It can lead to so many different types of health problems if you just take in too much sugar. So just keep that in mind. And the other no type of food I wanted to talk about was empty calorie foods, which, we're only human. We probably all have that in our pantry. And empty calorie foods are foods that are very high in calories with absolutely zero nutrition. No vitamins, no minerals, no protein, fiber, good fat. And these are probably our foods that we go to when we might have some cravings or a yen for something. So empty calorie foods in the pantry should be minimized. Now, I'm not saying eliminated because, well, yourself. So some people work better if something is out of sight, out of mind. Other people need it to be there. So yourself. We all have a yen for something. And, a number of the clients I have where I coach them in nutrition, some of them just really need it to be there, because if you have a craving and you've decided to just clear everything out, and you need to satisfy that craving. I've had clients go through every possible item in their kitchen, tasting this and tasting that just to try to satisfy their craving. And they've gone through so many calories at that point, you're probably better off just having that empty calorie food there. If you know it's there and you kind of treat it wisely, than just tossing it. But some people, as I said, are better with out of sight, out of mind. So you know yourself, and you can decide, what's best for you. So let's talk about one more item. And then what I really would like to do after that, I'm going to go over all the kind of no-nos in the pantry. And then I want to talk about all the wonderful, healthy, delicious things that are great to have in your pantry. So also elimination of trans fats and saturated fats, which I'm sure everybody is well aware of. A lot of health experts say, well, if you consume any trans fats or saturated fats, don't make it more than 10% of your daily calorie intake. That's fine, everything in moderation. But then there's also a lot of other health experts who say, don't ingest them at all. Don't eat them. They're not good to have around. So, my philosophy is kind of anything in moderation without overdoing it. It should be okay. So as I said, I've been talking about a lot of the many don'ts regarding your pantry staples, pantry makeover, excuse me. I'm going to give you a list of the foods that I kind of just covered briefly. And they may include, but they're not limited to, white rice, salty fried snack foods like potato chips, corn chips, Cheetos, vegetable oil, sugary breakfast cereals, canned soups. A lot of canned soups have high fructose corn syrup in them. Soda and sweetened beverages, snack cakes and cupcakes, packaged muffins. I'm going to stop there for a second. Just want to hold up this empty container that used to hold 2 very small bran muffins that I purchased. And, many times when you buy muffins out, they're huge. Well, these were small. I would say if you make muffins at home in your muffin pans, they were about that size. So they were not large. And there were 2 in here. And I was looking at the nutrition facts. And, of course, the serving size is 1 muffin, not 2. You really need to read the labels carefully because some people say, oh, well, 2 came in here, I can have 2. No, you got to look at the label, and the serving is one muffin. But the thing that really, aside from it had 22 grams of fat, it also had 20 grams of sugar in each muffin. And of those 20 grams, 16 of them are added sugars, which they're literally like pouring in to the ingredients. So I guess you can tell by now that I'm a big reader of labels and, nutrition labels. When I get groceries, there are so many foods that I buy over and over that I don't have to constantly stop and read the labels every time I go into the supermarket. But if you're buying different or new types of foods, or you're thinking of changing your habits or your lifestyle of eating, it really is important to look at ingredients, just to make sure you're buying what you think you're buying. So also included in the don'ts are, many of the cereal bars, crackers made with refined flour. So what's left to eat in the pantry? Well, plenty. And the items that I want to talk to you about now, I also made a list for you. I'll kind of read them slowly and hold up the item. I have a long row of items that I wanted to show you. They're all healthy, they're delicious. And it's not limited to just this. These are just a few that I've pulled out. So here goes. First item, dry beans and lentils, okay? Or split peas, legumes. These are lentils. I don't know how many of you use dry beans or any type of legume. I make lentil soup all the time. It's delicious, it's healthy. You throw in fresh vegetables. It's plant-based. It's a good way to kind of get away from the meat and poultry 1 or 2 nights a week. And then this kind of goes hand in hand with the canned beans. preferably low salt or no salt. These are garbanzo beans, better known as chickpeas. If you can't find low salt or no salt in a lot of the beans, it's really okay, because I would say just about every time I use them, I dump them in a colander anyway first, rinse them with water, and they drain. So whatever sodium is on them is gone. So shouldn't be a problem. Whole grains. We've got brown rice, we've got orzo, and we've got quinoa. This is a bag of quinoa. It's a wonderful whole grain. I'll go into detail with this particular food item in a little bit. I'm going to go through the list and show you the items, and then I'm going to probably talk about maybe 5 or 6 of them in detail, just to kind of give you a little more in-depth information about them. Another great pantry item is whole grain pasta. I know the semolina, the white semolina pasta tastes delicious. I enjoy it myself. This is a whole wheat pasta. And if it's cooked properly and you have a nice fresh marinara sauce or something you can, or maybe a little olive oil and garlic, it tastes delicious as well. Next would be whole grain cereals. We've got old-fashioned rolled oats, or you can use the steel cut oats. We also have, I also enjoy the kashi go lean. And believe it or not, Cheerios. It's been around forever. And I'm going to talk about the breakfast cereals a little later on, but can't go wrong with those. I will give you a little more information about the breakfast cereals later. I don't know how many of you are cereal eaters, but you can, there's a lot of good cereals out there, but there's also a lot of not so great ones. Diced tomatoes. Great in so many things. I must have about 8 or 10 cans of these in my pantry, but now they're all lined up by expiration date. So the most current one I pulled, and now if I need another one, I should just pull it right off the shelf and I don't have to worry about it. We have low sodium vegetable broth. Again, low sodium. We're trying to keep the sugar and the salt as low as possible. It's almost best if you add your own little bit of salt, knowing what you're adding. We had done takeout the other night, my husband and I, and the sodium level in whatever we ordered was just so ridiculously high. I was drinking water all night. So it's just not good for you. And if anybody has a tendency toward high blood pressure or any heart issues, salt is not a good thing. So you can get the low sodium vegetable broth, you can get low sodium chicken broth or beef broth. Great staples to have on hand to enhance a soup or a stew. Doing so much cooking, you just never know what you're going to end up making these days. The nut butters, you got almond butter, peanut butter, cashew butter, soy butter, natural Jif, not reduced fat. Used to buy the reduced fat, no more. Trying to see, I think the total sugars in here are 4. And I know in the reduced, I think it was almost close to double digits. So nuts make an awesome snack. I will talk more about that as well. I have some raw almonds here and raw cashews. As you can see, the bags have been opened already. Also pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, pecans, any nuts, peanuts. They make a great snack. I'll go into a little more detail in a little bit. Dried fruits, dried apricots, dried dates, raisins. It's a great snack. You can mix them with nuts. I'll also talk about that. Dijon mustard. It's a great flavor enhancer. It's good to make as a part of an ingredient in a salad dressing. Great even to mix in tuna fish. Apple cider vinegar. Also great for, putting in salad dressings, marinades, sauces. It helps with digestion and it lowers your blood sugar levels, helps to lower cholesterol, your blood pressure. Just a great little bottle to have around. And then we have the bottled sauces, marinara, tomato basil. I like to make my own sauce, but in a pinch, if you need to make something quickly, the sauce is great to use. I highly recommend you read the label as far as the ingredients and the nutrition facts as well. You should choose one that's made with either canola or olive oil, and it should contain no more than 1 gram of fat. I mean, this might have 2 or 3, but should not have more than 1 gram of fat per serving and no more than 400 milligrams of sodium. This is per half cup serving, because all the servings on the sauces are half cup, but just important to read food labels. Green tea. I have a cup of the regular green tea in the morning and usually a cup of decaf green tea at night. It's great for you. It's, you know, loaded with antioxidants, very soothing. But any of the teas, chamomile, black tea, they're all good. They're all good. Tea is a wonderful thing to drink. And sorry, keep disappearing. Canola oil and extra virgin olive oil. I'll go into that as well in a few minutes. And I have 2 more items. Great staple, obviously, tuna fish or canned salmon. Low salt if possible, but again, with tuna, usually when I open up a can of tuna, I'll put it in a colander and drain off I usually buy it in water. I know they do sell it in olive oil as well. I drain it in water and get all the salt off it. And then I kind of pat it dry with a paper towel and put it in a bowl. And now that's great mixed with some Dijon mustard, a little bit of olive oil, maybe a dab of mayonnaise. And my daughter made me that concoction when she was home and it was absolutely delicious. And last but not least, dark chocolate. Talk about that as well. So there's a few items that I sort of pulled from this batch that I wanted to talk about. The first one are the nuts, okay? So the nuts, it's a great snack. It's super healthy. It has 3 times the protein and fiber as probably the same amount of potato chips, even though potato chips taste really well, really good. Nuts are a lot healthier, and as I said, they contain a lot of protein and fiber. They're very filling, but they can be very caloric. So we really need to be careful how we portion out the nuts. So what I usually do, I have, as I showed you before, I had almonds, cashews, I'll buy peanuts. I don't buy the bags of like the peanuts mixed in with the chocolate and the dried fruit. I buy them all separately. I put them in a big Ziploc bag and I measure out a 1/4 cup. That's pretty much what a serving of nuts is. So that's why I like a mixture of them. And I put them in a snack size Ziploc bag. And what I've advised my clients, which is really kind of it's a good idea. I'll measure out about maybe 7 or 8 bags of this for the week, and I'll just throw it in the fridge. And when everybody was traveling to work every day, my clients would take one of the bags and put it in with their lunch. And when you get that craving around 3, 4 o'clock, you need something, just something to hold you over. It makes a great snack. And what you can do is you can take a few of these chocolate chips. Now the serving size on this bag, I think, is 30 chocolate chips. But if you're having a serving of nuts, you can't take 30 chocolate chips and add it to the nuts, because then you're just like overdoing it. So I would take maybe 10 or 15 chocolate chips, put it in here. You got the sweet, and I would advise getting raw nuts, but I know that sometimes the salt, like in a cashew, tastes really good. So if you'd like to have salt in the nuts, maybe just have it in the cashews and have everything else be raw. And then you'll have a little bit of the sodium in there, and it's a nice offset to the semi-sweet. You can also maybe chop up some apricots or get some craisins, just a little bit, and mix it in with the nuts. So you have a little bit of sweet to go with the nuts, and have it with a glass of water or even a small can of the low sodium V8 juice. And it should be good. It should hold you over till dinner. So I highly advise. They're really healthy. They have the good omega-3 fats in them, lots of fiber, lots of protein, lots of crunch. So highly advise that for a snack. Okay, next thing I wanted to chat with you about are the canned beans. I had showed you garbanzo beans, which are chickpeas. You have kidney beans, pinto beans, cannellini. The list goes on. Beans, again, also are a great source of protein and fiber. They're great in a salad, in a stew, in chili, in a casserole. You drain them in a colander, rinse them, drain them. They're even great in an omelet. And it's, as I talked about before, if you want to do like a meatless Monday or just a night where you don't always have to have some sort of animal protein, beans really sort of, they're like first prize. They're great. They're absolutely filling and healthy, and it's just a nice alternative. Let's talk about whole grain breakfast cereals. So, I mean, just about every household, I think, has a few boxes on their pantry shelf. And the best cereals to choose are whole grain cereals. And when the best way to know that it's a whole grain cereal and that it's good for you is the first ingredient on the list on the box of cereal should say whole grain. So for example, with the Cheerios, the first ingredient says whole grain oats. And Kashi, whole grain, yes, 7 whole grains. So that'll tell you right there, because the first 5 ingredients on any kind of food basically encompass the largest amount in that particular food. So it should say whole grain, and you should also look on the nutrition facts aside from the ingredients, and the cereal should have at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. That makes a big difference as well. And it should not indicate anything more than 8 grams of sugar per serving. Anything that gets, 9 grams, okay, anything that gets into double digits with sugar in a cereal, or really anything on a label, is way too much sugar. So if you can keep it to single digits, and as long as it's not the first ingredient listed, sugar, you should be okay. Whole grains, 5 grams of sugar, 5 grams of fiber, and no more than 8 or 9 grams of sugar. And that should be fine. And the other thing I would suggest, I don't think it's advisable to buy cereals that have like the dried fruit in it already, or something like Raisin Bran. It ups the sugar very high. And why wouldn't you want to add fresh sliced bananas or blueberries or raspberries or strawberries, fresh fruit to your cereal instead of having the dried fruit? It just doesn't, I don't think it enhances it, and it makes it less healthy. So yes, you probably need to look at some food labels and nutrition facts when you shop, but once you get into the habit of buying similar products, it doesn't get as tedious. And then we have the, as I showed you, the extra virgin olive oil and the canola oil. Those are definitely staple items to have in a pantry. The olive oil makes a great addition to salad dressings as far as an ingredient is concerned. It makes a great dip if you have like a whole grain bread or crackers, and you want to dip it. And you can sprinkle a little fresh ground pepper and maybe even some hot pepper flakes. It's absolutely delicious and healthy for you. It's a great cooking fat to use when you're making chicken or fish. And same thing for canola oil. It's great for cooking, and canola oil is also really good for baking. Whole grain quinoa. Now, I'm a big brown rice eater, but also quinoa as well. The interesting thing about quinoa, it has twice the fiber, twice the protein, and twice the iron as the same amount of brown rice. They each contain 170 calories per quarter cup dry, but quinoa kind of beats out brown rice in the nutrition category by a lot. And you can add it to, stew, soup, salads, leftover into omelets, whatever you want to do with it. And the interesting thing is, anytime, a recipe calls for a whole grain, if you want to make a change, you can try using quinoa instead of brown rice. And the other thing is, if you like using a rice cooker, if you have one at home, you can make quinoa in a rice cooker. So that can be very helpful for a lot of people. And now we have the best, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate with, this one has 55% cacao, CACAO, or unsweetened cocoa. One of the health benefits of dark chocolate stems from the cacao plant, and which that part of it is very rich in antioxidant phytochemicals, and they're called flavonoids. So, and what's not to like about dark chocolate? Many studies have suggested that dark chocolate and cocoa may ease emotional stress, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, and actually maybe decrease blood pressure. However, dark chocolate is also loaded with fat, sugar, and calories. So enjoy a small portion. So if you just want this as a serving and you're not mixing it with nuts, you actually can enjoy 30 pieces. So not bad, but with chocolate, whether it's in pieces or in a large bar, please always make sure to look at the portion size, because that's really important. And that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk with you about. I hope I've sort of helped you or pumped you up to change over your pantry a bit. And I wish you all a healthy year ahead. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Yeah, if people could either raise their hand or put it in the chat, we'll get Jan some questions. Jan, can you address ice cream and frozen juice pops and things like that?
Well, that's tonight I'm really just talking about pantry staples.
Okay.
But just really quickly, as I talked about the ice cream before, I think you're better off just buying a basic regular ice cream, whether it's the pops and look at the serving size. And usually, you know, a serving size of ice cream is a half a cup.
Mhm.
I don't think that's going to hurt anybody.
Okay.
So follow the portion control, follow the serving sizes, and don't stand on the couch with a spoon and the container of ice cream, and then you'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Can I make a suggestion for whomever asked about the ice cream?
Sure.
Somebody told me about Yasso.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
They're Greek yogurt. They taste like ice cream pops.
Right.
And it's 100 calories per bar, and they come in like 1,000 different flavors.
And you could do your own. You could even do juice pops, you know, make your own, add fresh fruit to it. There's lots of ways to do that, for sure. But as I said, if you just want a dish of ice cream, measure out a half a cup. You know, you want to throw a few little chips on and some fresh fruit, some strawberries or raspberries. It'll fill you up.
Okay, someone wrote in the chat that the nuts should be refrigerated to prevent from becoming rancid.
Yes, especially, I've always done that. A lot of people don't, especially in the warmer weather. They can become rancid. Once you open them, it's always best, if you have a pantry that's maybe in a lower level and it's a cool, dry location, that's fine. But once you open them, especially if you make up the bags, for the week, or definitely throw them in the fridge. It doesn't change the taste in any way, and it just keeps them fresher.
You didn't address baking items, flour, baking soda, things like that, that also sit in the pantry.
Yes, they too have expiration dates, and as long as they're in a cool, dry place, I wouldn't store them near a dishwasher or oven or anything that radiates heat, because that can affect the shelf life. And things like flour, you have to throw it away once it expires. There have been some cases where people have gotten very ill by even making a pancake mix that had been expired and got very sick. So those type of items definitely have a shelf life, and they don't usually have that long an expiration date on them when you purchase them. So cool, dry place, I don't think you need to refrigerate those items, but away from oven, dishwasher, anything that gets hot. Yeah.
I have another question. What about onions and potatoes? Can you keep those in a pantry with closed dry goods?
You can. You can. I don't think my mom has ever refrigerated those. She has a door in her kitchen that leads out to the garage, and she's always had a basket out there where she's just kept them. Now in the summer, you know, the garage can get pretty hot, so you need to kind of be a little more conscious of that. I would probably refrigerate them in the summer, but you do not need to, especially if you're not going to keep them more than 3 to 5 days, and you're going to use them, because then they're going to start to grow little tentacles. So yeah, cool, dry place always.
Would you discuss the difference between sell by dates and use by dates?
Oh, it's sort of a matter of semantics. Yeah,
Well, it's better for the company if you use the beans by the use by dates, because then you'll throw them away and buy more.
that's
But
right.
beans and other canned goods don't go bad by the use by date.
They don't. And my thing has always been, when in doubt, I've called up the company, because I really think it can be very confusing. And there are certain foods that you can probably use beyond those dates, and it's safe and okay. I don't have a specific list in front of me right now. However, when in doubt, call them up. Certain items like eggs and, perishables,
Eggs and dairy,
you just,
yeah, those have legal dates.
but canned goods, I think, are okay to extend it a few weeks or so, but, don't go by what I have to say. I always call the company, because I find it very confusing. Yeah.
Anybody else? Everybody doesn't have their video on, but if anybody has a question, now's your chance. So what's the next thing you're going to tackle at home, Jan?
Probably some closets. I've been cleaning out some drawers, walking around with like a Target trash bag and just working stuff out. I don't have that much clutter, but I think closets are, don't you feel better after you clean out a closet?
Yes.
Sort of like it's kind of cathartic. And when you're stuck home a lot more than going shopping or what things that we used to do a little more, I find more things to do. So yeah, cleaning out a closet. I clean out the refrigerator, and I have a freezer that's it's the French door refrigerator. So you have that pull-out freezer where everything piles on top of everything. So I clean that out probably once every few weeks, because I don't even remember what's there. At least with a pantry, you can see everything. So
We tend to use a lot of Ziploc bags for things. I think that keeps stuff fresher. I think what I'm not good at is keeping the label from the box or the bag to remind me expiration dates. So now I've raised my consciousness, but I mean, we'll go through our fridge every whatever and get rid of salad dressing or, things that are just sitting a very long time.
yes.
When we bought our new house and we moved, that allowed for a lot of letting go also. But you tend to reaccumulate, especially under these conditions.
You do. You
Yeah.
definitely do. And I think as I said, I think it's cathartic, whether it's a pantry or a freezer or a closet or even a garage. When things accumulate, just getting in the mindset to do it is a task. And then once you start it, I think you feel better after it's done. Almost like a spring cleaning in the winter. So yeah.
Okay, last call. Anything else for Jan? Okay, thank you very much, Jan. Hopefully
you.
you've inspired us and made us good shoppers, and we'll be far more conscious as we walk around the
Labels.
stores.
Yes, read your labels and read your nutrition facts and pay attention to portion size. So,
Thank you.
good
Thank
luck,
you.
everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for attending.
Okay, bye-bye.